It's the year 2025, and guys, there are a lot of promising things coming from Windows features, Windows PC sales all over the world. Not necessarily Windows, there is Mac OS, there is Linux, among many other OS, including even Chrome OS. The main thing, guys, I need you to highlight mainly is understanding why you should upgrade your storage. So those of you who are using hard disk drives, that is HDD in short, as their primary boot drive, they are making a mistake in terms of PC performance. And here I have an example of those devices, what you call as HDD, or what you call hard disk drives. So if you look closely, guys, you will see this one is a bit covered. This is a 3.0 form factor, or 3-inch factor. So this is 2.5-inch form factor hard disk drive, or HDD, those who prefer the abbreviation. So what happens is during the boot process of a computer, when a computer starts, there is those initial checks for hardware, and then it locates the Windows OS, and then it starts up your OS and programs installed in your hard drive. So this speed in which it starts from boot to Windows login usually takes this a lot of time between this and the solid state drive. Remember, there is this, what you call the HDD, and then there is the one we call solid state drive, or SSDs. SSDs are another form factor or another storage type like this one, only that SSD is 5 to 10 times faster. The reason as to why I'm mentioning about upgrading, it means you're changing from this to the SSD. Later on, I'll show you about those SSD drives, the way they look like, and their form factors. They have different form factors, could be depending on the generation of a hardware. Let's say if it's a 5th generation, or an 11th generation, or a 13th generation PC. There are different form factors of SSDs. I will show them in detail later, but my primary focus is for those people who are using hard disk drives as their boot drive for their Windows or Linux or whatever the OS you are going to use. Because HDDs have their own reliabilities in terms of storage. Number one, HDDs are good in storage, but are not as SSDs in terms of performance. So the first thing, guys, I need to discuss about HDDs, their drawbacks. Number one, they use a lot of power because it uses a motor head. It uses a, if you check closely, guys, there is this this section here. There is the disk surrounding it, and there's the motor head that which reads the data in real time. So what happens is that it draws a lot of power going into the HDD for it to read data, while SSDs, they don't use that power since they don't have any moving parts. And that's why you find that eventually, if you compare the SSD and HDD, their power consumption is different. HDDs use more. And then the other thing, the HDD uses, or when you are setting up or you are starting up your computer, the HDDs take a lot of time to start up, simply because it has to go into the sectors within the HDD to fetch and read data so that it can relay on your screen. So that's the other drawback. And then the other thing is that, remember, if you remember, some of you have experienced it in the past. If you have dropped your computer and you find that it can't start, or it can't load, or it says no boot device found. I'm not saying it's the main reason, but one of the culprits is this. Because if this is dropped, especially when the computer is still on, if this is dropped, most chances are that one of either the platters or the motor itself, or any of factors within the structure of this HDD is damaged because of falling. But SSDs, if they are dropped, depending on the height, it's not like absolute, it depends. But most chances, if you drop an SSD from a reasonable height, like maybe within maybe a range of 1 meter, depending on a number of factors, including how hard the ground is. But most chances you'll find that if you compare a HDD and an SSD in terms of physical damage, the HDD will be damaged more and will need to be replaced. And this is why it's important to upgrade. And then the other thing you find is that the wear and tear of HDDs is quite fast in terms of when you're using it as the boot drive as compared to the SSD. So SSDs have their own categories of wear leveling. It's a different term, it's a different terminology in explaining those kind of things. But I'll explain in the near future about SSDs in particular and why they are really, really good, especially if we're in 2025 when you're dealing with even Gen 4s and Gen 5 of the NVMe's SSDs. Those are the main reasons as to why I encourage you guys to upgrade. So those of you who are still using this as the primary boot drive, guys, you are not doing yourself a favor. We're in 2025. It's not hard to get at least 500 GB of SSD as your primary boot drive and use this as a secondary storage option for your PC. It's not hard. You can just set aside some Kenya shillings, 5,000 in a year, buy an SSD, upgrade from your existing storage. Because guys, remember, you're not being told that if you buy this, your computer is going to die. It's not like that. It's as simple as upgrading your user experience when you're logging into Windows. Remember guys, Windows 10 support is reaching to its end at 14th October of this year. And Windows is adding features that are drawing a lot of power from your hardware. And if you have this as your primary boot drive, guys, you're going to suffer in your experience of Windows 11. For 10 at least you can, depending on how active you are on your PC. But those of you who focus on PC performance, please don't use this as your primary boot drive. Just use the SSDs. And you can even search it online. See SSD options, see SSD prices in Kenya, Nairobi especially. So they are really cheap and their prices have gone down. You can't compare SSD prices today as compared to 10 years ago. So guys, it's simple as that. There is nothing else that is superficial about upgrading, especially in terms of storage, because these ones are very good for long-term storage. For those of you who do backup and anything to do with either storage of either large things, for gamers and creatives or businesses who rely on backups, these are very good because they offer price per GB is cheaper than SSD. So you'll find that you can even go up to 12 GB of storage depending on your income or how resourceful you are. So check it out guys. See you soon and thanks.